Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Garcia.
And I'm Lisa Palmer, and you're tuning in to The Fleek. With the top stories this morning, we cover the success around the CBS World News International broadcast since its debut.
An interview with Edward Murrow reveals how his experience with journalism made his popularity among the live radio transmission possible. FDR's declaration of war emerged with the largest live audience in radio history.
What started as a way for ships to communicate with other ships and land has now boomed. By 1934, 60% of the nation had radios in their households, and by 1939, that quickly became nearly more than 28 million American households. It was just back in the 1920s when the voices and music could be transmitted over the radio, and they became a must-have. Women played a role in the making of radios in factories. A woman named Mary Loomis even opened a business in Washington, D.C. to teach radio operation and engineering.
And now we take a look back at the origins of the CBS World News Roundup, now the largest running radio newscast in the United States. It all started on March 13, 1938, where the first broadcast was hosted by newsman Robert Trout. The program was a 35-minute report from diverse locations around the globe, the first of its kind. That day was also the first time European field correspondents were linked with an anchor in New York. The broadcast program was created with the intention to trump NBC's radio coverage. The CBS president at the time, William S. Parley, was credited with the idea for the report that took the world by storm.
In late May of 1927, American aviator Charles Lindbergh completed the very first non-stop transatlantic flight done solo. Lindbergh's single-engine plane, named the Spirit of St. Louis, endured a 33-and-a-half-hour flight from Roosevelt Field, New York, to Le Bourget Field, Paris. Regardless of his success, his intense virtual impact was something he never could have seen coming. By recording Charles Lindbergh's homecoming to New York live on radio stations, the event was able to draw in over 4 million spectators. This idea by the radio stations really was the best thing since sliced bread. Since this big moment, Lindbergh's triumph propelled the use of live radio recording in today's news coverage.
And now a very special report, an interview sure to blow your mind.
Today I'm here with a very special guest, Edward Murrow. So Edward, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born in Greensboro, North Carolina, but grew up in Washington.
Where did you work at?
I worked at the CBS as the director of talks from 1935 through 1937.
How did you end up with your career in journalism?
Well, honestly, it was by accident. In 1938, I hopped on a plane to Vienna to see what was happening with Germany's invasion on Austria. I ended up covering the issue for CBS, which pretty much jump-started my career. Then after this, I started making connections with a lot of new people, which led me to forming a team. They helped me cover a lot of stories about a lot of things going on in Europe. Some people called us the Murrow Boys.
Interesting. What were some of the biggest stories you covered throughout your career?
I would have to say I'm most widely known for my broadcast through World War II. I was able to get a lot of information about what was going on in Germany, while it was good to give people insight as to what was happening and how serious it was. It was really hard to see.
Yes, I cannot even imagine how difficult that must have been, especially with you being one of the first journalists to actually enter a Nazi concentration camp. So do you have any special words about journalism?
A quote I think is pretty Fleek is anyone who isn't confused really doesn't understand the situation.
Very inspiring. How about any more interesting facts about yourself?
Well, I already did talk about my part in the CBS network, but I previously taught at the Columbia University, which was the School of Journalism.
All right, well, it's been a pleasure having you with us today. But before you go, do you have a Fleek catchphrase for us?
One of my favorite quotes was always good night and good luck. It seemed very Fleek to me.
Very Fleek indeed. All right, well, Edward, thank you for being here with us today.
My
now
pleasure.
back to you, Mike.
We're remembering the day that the United States was hacked. On December 8th of 1941, the day after the infamous attack on Pearl Harbor, President Franklin D. Roosevelt delivered his now-known speech known as the Day of Infamy speech. The speech was broadcast live on radio and had the largest audience in American radio history, with an approximate of 81% of American residents tuning in, listening to this speech. The former president's goal with this speech was to inform the American people of the horrible tragedy that had occurred the day before.
And we're bagging it here, fellas. We hope you'll have a fine rest of your day, and we'll see you tomorrow with the Fleek.